Hi, I'm Angela, fashion designer and online instructor, and today we're going to talk about the 70s. There was a huge international influence in the 70s, which is how I came up with the peasant top. This was very popular. In fact, it's back in style, so this was really fun. So I want to talk about this, but the big thing was, how about embroidery? This is a very lightweight rayon, and the embroidery looks great, and that's what I want to focus on. So take a look at these outfits over here. This dress, it's a cotton with a little bit of stretch, has a real tight design, and that used just a regular, standard, tearaway stabilizer for embroidery. How about this sheer blouse? I love this. You can see through it. It's embroidered, but you can't see any stabilizer. That's the beauty of the new technology. We have water-soluble, sticky-backed stabilizer, which I love. I use it on everything now. So the sleeves are embroidered. Everything here is embroidered. The cuffs, but you can't see it. And the other part is, notice how the fabric, it lays perfectly. If you used a tight design like that, it won't work on a sheer fabric, which we'll get more into that soon. So how do you do this? Well, I actually start sometimes with the garment cut apart and embroider, or in the case of the dress, I actually sewed the whole dress together and then embroidered. But for the peasant top, this is what I have here. This is my fabric. It's a lightweight rayon, and this is the sleeve. The blue tabs show me that this is the wrong side of the fabric, which is very important. Look at how bad this stuff wrinkles. See that? But I like it. It's kind of a fun look. So let me show you how to do this the right way without ending up with a mess with your embroidery. So this is the wrong side of my fabric. I have marked with a fabric pen, the darts, and this is the center where it's going to be cut open. I don't want to embroider in those spots, or at least try not to. If I end up embroidering here, I just want to only focus on this area so I don't mess up the design. So figure out your placement, and I first went through with my top, and I thought, you know, it'd be kind of fun to have it designed somewhere in this area. Again, this pen disappears, and somewhere in this area. Now you could also have it perfectly even, but I didn't want to. So here is where I want to do my first design. I'll also mark my sleeves and maybe the back, whatever you want to do. Here's my embroidery hoop. Now when I first started embroidering, I really got a little bit afraid of all the different stabilizers. There's so many, and so I thought, okay, maybe I should start trying some of these and not be so afraid. I only used tearaway forever. Well, here is a roll of the water-soluble. On one side, it has kind of a fabric feel. On the other side, it's just paper, and if you pull these apart, which we'll do in a minute, it's sticky. Well, this is the key to making perfect embroidery on a lightweight fabric. It also works on knits, and like I said, I use it on just about everything now. And then guess what? As soon as you put warm water on it, it disappears. So make sure this fabric I've already pre-washed. So if you're going to do a design on a garment, you might, well not might, you're going to want to wash your fabric and dry it before you do this. Okay, here's my hoop. Now notice, the paper side's on the up. There's wrinkles here. It doesn't matter because I've noticed with the water soluble, a lot of times the paper makes a little groove as it's rolled on the roll. But underneath, it's fine. So put that in there, make it sure it's tight. This is a really nice large hoop, but use whatever size you want to for the design that you've chosen. Your machine will probably tell you. Okay, now see what I'm doing here? This is the paper side. Just lightly pull that up. Well, this is kind of a neat trick because if you were to take this paper off, remember I told you it was kind of sticky? If I were to take this paper off first, my hoop would be just a mess. So let's just rip this off, get as close to the edge as you can. Now my design doesn't go all the way to the edge, so it doesn't have to be perfect. There you go. And if you wanted to be a little more neat, you could have just scored around the whole edge and peeled. That's way too easy. All right, so here, this is my wrong side of the fabric, remember? So I'm going to flip it to the right side. Let's see, the hoop goes in this way. So you have to take into consideration where your design is going. And this is how easy this is. What I like to do is, you can see this line here, all the way down to here. I'm trying to line my grain line up. And I can see the grain line on the fabric. Now you might not be able to see that through the camera, but look on your fabric and you'll see a grain line. Try to make sure that lines up if you want your design to be perfectly even. If you're just starting out, why don't you just have fun and not worry about that? Now look what I'm doing. I'm sticking the fabric, but look at these ugly bubbles. Just lift and pull until you get a nice flat design. Now remember how I squished that fabric up, how bad it wrinkles? Well, if you want your fabric to stay wrinkled all the time, like if it's a crinkled fabric or it's going to stay that way, then wrinkle your fabric first and then put it down. But I'm just going to get out some of these wrinkles. And my design doesn't go all the way far here. Let's go put this in and decide. Let's put this hoop in and decide what design we want. So I'm going to slide my hoop onto the machine, making sure the fabric from the top is out of the way. You can see why I do this before I put sew the top together. You have a lot more flexibility of where the design is going to go. All right. And then we'll just put that lever all the way down here. So you can see the dart, you can see all the positioning. Let's choose a design. So if you were to choose a design like these three up here, those are way too dense for a light fabric. Not saying it wouldn't work, but it would change the hand of the fabric. So I'm going to choose a looser, this design would work great, this design would look great. This is the design on the dress that's way too dense. So if you're worried, pick a design and experiment. Test it on a scrap piece of fabric. So you have a few ways of choosing placement. There's the snowman, which you can put this on the fabric and then use your machine to find the perfect placement. Here's another way. This is a touch screen, so I can move this design wherever I want it. So I know I want it kind of high on the top, and I don't want it to hit the bust dart, which would maybe be right around there. So let's see how that looks. Okay, I'm going to hit this notch here, and this tells me right here, let me put, 1 second. There's a little laser light, and then when I hit this and go to the far left, this is going to show me the placement of the design. That's going to be the exact top of the design right here, which would be perfect. Okay, what about the far right side over here? It's just barely at the tip of that bust point. Perfect. That won't cause any problems. Here we go, down here, that's perfect for the bottom, so we're good to go. So this is going to be the center of the design. I like it, so I'm going to hit embroidery. And I'm just going to put my foot down and hit go. And that's how easy this is. I'll wait, let's see, 7 minutes, and it's going to be all finished. So while that's stitching, let me show you how I did the sleeves on that top. This is a really easy way to make a little cuff. Here's my sleeve. Before I sew the sleeve together, here are a few things. I just have a scrap of fabric on grain, and this is about 1.5 inches wide. I've serged the edges because this fabric frays really bad. And I'm going to take this, fold it under on each side, and press it, which is what I have here. And then I'm going to choose a placement on the sleeve. This other one, I think it was about 2 inches high, but you can go wherever you want to. Let's just say 3 inches, just to give a little more room. I would measure this all the way across, 3 inches up, 3 inches. Notice I have not hemmed the sleeve yet. Nothing's done yet. This is the first thing I do. And I'm going to pin this in place. The reason that I didn't choose a bias piece for this, which I could, I just want it on grain and it doesn't need to stretch out. So now what I would do is I would actually go to the machine and stitch along the very edge. I'm just going to mark it with a pen just so you can see, just along the very edge. A very tight stitch, maybe a 2.5 on both sides. So it would actually create a casing. I love these water-soluble pens. They get wet and they're gone. Always test them, of course. Okay, so I'm just going to use the pins here and pretend that that's my casing. And then what I have here is just a piece of elastic. This elastic is 3/8 of an inch wide. Measure the elastic around your wrist and mark where you want it. You don't want it too tight. You just want it to be comfortable. All it's going to do is hold that sleeve up a little bit higher. So I already have mine marked here, and we're going to say that this edge is going to meet this edge. you're going to take this and slide it through the casing. Okay? Now, I have not stitched this, so you have to work with me here. I would pull this all the way through to the other side. Again, this is all encased. I would show you that, but the embroidery machine's busy. And once it gets out to this side, your little mark that you made right here would line up with the side seam. And I would take that and I would stitch it right along the side to the side seam. This other side would be pulled through the casing to this side. So you would have this would all be scrunched up and you'd think, okay, how am I gonna get this sewn together? Well, again, this would be stitched at this side, just basted. And then when you go to put your sleeve together, you would fold this over and stitch your seam. So the elastic is already in there. You don't have to worry about sliding it or anything like that. So you end up with this. I didn't have to worry about anything. It just was already in there. So let's go take a peek at this embroidery. How is it turning out? It looks really good. It's not puckering. It's not too full. This is how easy it is to embroider on a sheer fabric.